let's see how many attendees we have today. We have 18 so far joined, right? So if everyone could go and fill in that post for, I think we have 4 posts, poll questions right now. If you could fill it in, that would be a good base for us to continue discussion.
Actually, I don't see it in chats for some reason. I did reply to, I mean, I did register my vote on all these polls, but right now I can't see it in chat or in Teams.
You should go to the Testoper Codathon channel, right? And then you can go to the beginners track, all the chats. It's in one group, right? So it should be there. The other thing is right now, if you just click the chat, you should be seeing it in the right meeting chat.
Okay.
Even in the meeting chat, you should be able to see.
If you go to activity and then it's there in the feeds, the first part is forms. So in the forms you have it.
Yeah, there's multiple ways you can access, right?
Yeah.
The easiest way is through the chat. Yeah.
Yeah, it's there in activity.
Yeah, responses are increasing. This is good. Please take time because it's very important. So we have like 4 poll questions there. For those who have joined a little bit late, I like to repeat this again. So in the chat window, you have 4 poll questions. We kindly request you to fill in those 4 poll questions for us, which we would be using as a base for today's Ask Us Anything topic. So 1 more minute and we will start the session. Krishna, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. I can just join in late. Sorry, guys and girls. Just add a few things to finish. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. You should be there because this whole Ask Me Anything is basically we are doing it thanking your contribution and continuous contribution in helping the community. So this is for you, Krishna.
I don't know what to say, but I think thanks for you guys. But I think let's wait for the audience response.
Yeah.
We haven't even finished it. I have a few more weeks to go. But anyway, this is good. I like the questions you posted.
Yeah. By the way, those who do not know, right? After Krishna's cloud session, 5 or 6 more sessions we have. The next one we are planning on Kubernetes, and then followed by we are planning on data science. So the Saturday track will just continue. So it's going to be interesting stuff. Yeah.
So the idea is, so once we finish, once I give you guys AZ, this is, I call it, this actually it's a bit more deeper than AZ 900. This is a bit more enterprisey level thing. Next one I want to actually do is bring in a Kubernetes expert that has deployed a lot of Kubernetes deployments for a lot of large customers and speak about specifically on the Kubernetes, the deployment patterns that you see in Kubernetes, the use cases, and also about security aspects of it. So that will give you a full end-to-end Kubernetes story. And also follow that, I also will do a deep dive on enterprise security. So I would bring in a speaker that is working at as a cloud leader in one of the banks, security leader in the banks in Canada. So we will have a in-depth session on how to build enterprise security. So if you see, this track is becoming more and more enterprisey, very deep stuff. We also will start with the basics and then move on to the complex terms. So that way you get the full, by end of this year, if you attend all the sessions, you would have seen how the cloud works in terms of the Azure side of things. And also you'll have the understanding of Kubernetes and all the security. That's a very good time spent in my view. And these speakers are industry expert. They have doing this for a number of years. So you will get the best of what I could find from the industry to share the knowledge with you guys.
Should we give a kudos clap, guys, for Krishna?
I think you should do it after. I'm a bit, but yeah, thank you. Appreciate all the help. I also learned a lot of things from you guys as well. Anytime I ask a question, it's also kudos go to you as well, right?
Not for you. Hi, this is Sonali. So not for you, Krishna, not for Kadir, like the entire team of Testoper that is doing this. Like a big kudos to you guys. If you can hear me clapping.
Yeah.
Like it's so useful.
Well, Kadir, I didn't. Kadir invited me. I think it goes to Mr. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Yes.
No, it's all of us, right? It's all of us, and all right, good. So let's a couple of points, and then we'll get started on this session today. I'll be your moderator, and let's get started. So the first thing I like to share with you all is, see, we all here together, right? It's not Kadir's achievement, it's not Krishna's achievement, it's not Kapil's achievement, Abdul's achievement, Sonali's achievement, right? It is all of us, ours achievement. I just want to make sure this community is a non-profit. Every one of us here have a responsibility in one or other way to help each other. And that's the only way we can grow and we can help others. Growing in helping others. See, you have to think about, normally some other companies, when they say I'm growing, they are growing in profitability. Here, we are actually growing in good deeds, right? By doing good deeds, giving back to the people and helping them to achieve and become better in their career, right? So there is a difference between these two things. And one of the key thing I kindly request you all is, see, we are consistently 20 to 30, I would say 25 to 30 people attending in this session. And what can we do together to increase this 30 to 60, right? 60 to 100. So everyone can benefit from this good thing that we are trying to do here. This is something I want you to really, really think as an individual and help us to get there, right? Your innovation is the limit to help us on that point of view. And that's the only way we can grow. Okay, so that's the first point I want to say. And then the second point is, we would be doing some kind of a migration, right? So currently the teams that you are using, it's unfortunate, but it's the reality, right? The teams that we have been using, it's a trail teams license, okay? But now we have a, Microsoft provided non-profit permanent license. So now we need to migrate from this teams to that teams. All right. So what you would get is over this weekend, an invitation to kind of join that new teams. And what you have to do is, first thing is you have to go and clear your cache. Second thing is you disconnect, log out from your Microsoft Teams that you have already logged in, and then click the email that you have received from us. It would come from testoper.onmicrosoft.com, right? So that's the email ID. It will come from that email ID. And click that email ID, follow that instructions and join that new teams, right? So from the next Saturday onwards, we would be having a calls on that new teams, not in this teams, right? Just as a FYI, I want to make sure that you understand. These are the two key critical points. And then let's now get into ask me anything. Okay. So let's see where we are. I'm going to switch on my video so there is some kind of a good engagement here. Can you guys see me? All right, let me put some to make the situation better. So let me make sure that you guys understand that I'm in beach. All right, perfect. So the first poll question was, what is your career goal and what do you want to do in next 5 to 10 years? So the idea of this question is to kind of understand what kind of audience have been coming into this session, right? Especially today's session, Saturday's session. So the result of that poll, as you all can see, we have tester, including automation expert, approximately around 8. I really appreciate it because as we have been discussing in multiple sessions, that the tester have to have operations skills, right? So we'll talk about it after. Then operations experts and DevOps around 14, 56% of the attendees, and others are 3. So I like to kind of start our discussion, right? The group discussion starting from others, for instance, right? I want one representative who entered others to really speak out, or all the 3, whoever has entered today. I want them to speak out outside of testing and operations career goal that you have. It's quite unique to kind of, you have a different goal. You don't want to be a tester, you don't want to be an operations expert. Then what you want it to be, and what makes you to attend this program by which you can achieve what you want to be, which is not a tester and operation, right? So that's my first question. Can someone, whoever entered other, can unmute and speak, please, and give us some highlights around that. Hello. Let me see if I can actually find the names of the people who, I don't know if I can really do that.
Hi, Kader, I'm Abdul.
Abdul? Yeah, Abdul.
Yeah. So it can be security related stuff. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So it's
go ahead.
Go ahead, Abdul.
It can be a security related training, as you said, Kubernetes.
Yep.
And then security, enterprise level.
Yep.
Those kind of stuff. I can say that.
Okay.
But what do you want to be, right? If you don't want to be an automation expert, testing expert, and operations expert, so what do you want to be?
Yeah, that's maybe I can say architect level, consultant.
Okay, but when you are architect, yeah, go ahead.
See, Kader, I think this is way I see the role is emerging in this is they have to be multifaceted professional. Okay, so like there is no even in my role, right? So they call me as a cloud solution architect. My team is called cloud solution architect team, right? But the things we do at customer place, it's very different. It's not like there's not any more siloed points anymore. It's all basically, for example, if I work on a compute layer as an example, and Kubernetes layer, it also has touch points on security, compliance, audit, data sovereignty, data residency, and also 5G related stuff, right? So it's all encompassing everything. So I don't believe in the companies these days are going very flat structure, okay? Mm-hmm. So the designations like senior, lead, all the things are pretty much just chopped off. You have somebody based on if Abdul's or Kader's goal is to become a full-rounded professional, that should be the goal versus tight individual verticalized silos. I don't see it. Yesterday I was working on a testing plan, which a traditional architect won't work. So all I'm saying is every architect that's what even the courses we do are multi-faceted course, right? So it's going to be multiple things of doing different things. You might be level 200 on a lot of areas, but you have to be level 400 on one area sort of thing.
Understood. So I want to kind of continue this discussion. Let me ask, I'm going to name someone here, right? Let me ask Jashreet. what is your opinion on this, right? And what you want to become, and what is your opinion on what Krishna is saying, and based on your experience?
Frankly, I am not aware of much about this Kubernetes stuff, but I am trying to join these discussions about the various stuff like Python or the Azure to get more knowledge about the things that I am not much aware of.
And why do you want to? Why do you want to earn knowledge, right? So you have to put whatever the knowledge that you have. You wanted to put that into some kind of a end result, right? So yeah, it's good to say I wanted to learn and I'm enjoying this. But what's your end goal, Jayashree?
So ultimate, like on a daily basis, see, in the team that I'm working for, they discuss about such things. They talk about Azure, they talk about Kubernetes. So the things about such things which I'm not aware of, I want to gain knowledge on those. And then ultimately, if based upon, see, I'm a working mom. So taking care of 2 kids and then enhancing my knowledge and then putting into some particular goal will take a significant amount of time for me, but just to be in like aware of what all is happening in the world, I wanted to be part of this, you can say.
Very good. See, I'll help you to comprehend what you are saying, right? See, it happens, right? Even for me in my career, early careers, right? If I'm in a meeting and a lot of people talk something, maybe, the first step, when I was sitting in that sessions, I used to feel, what these guys are talking, it's just going above my head and I don't understand anything, but I know that this is relevant to something that I'm doing. Then if you are in that situation, then one of 2 things that you can do, which has happened with me in my career, right? Then I started like you, understanding various different things. In my career, once I was a managing director of a company where I had like 280, 300 people. Briefly I went to India to settle down. I was a managing director of a company. At that time it was called as NetHawk, and then acquired by another company, and I was having 300 people reporting it to me. And then I had IT, I had finance, I had HRD, I had legal, I had R&D, product management, everyone, right? But at that time, what happens is, it becomes very important for me, right? I'm just giving an example. It's very important for me to at least understand or develop myself to a level what each people are talking, so I can understand.
Yep.
Forget about, I am actively contributing. First level is what they are talking, I need to understand. Then it becomes individual smartness, right? So how smart you are, how logically you can think, how logically you can respond to the question. And sometimes you can even cross question it, even though you are not an expert, using your logic so you can get things done right. You see what I mean? So just to comprehend everything into one single statement, I take it like, Jaspreet, you are coming and learning in this community because you wanted to develop your skills to actively understand and contribute in the workplace that you are involved in, to kind of stand out of the crowd, right? If you actually kind of able to understand what they are speaking and able to give your opinion, so people are going to notice you, right?
Yeah.
And if they notice you, it's going to help you in many different ways, right? So that's how I comprehend it. This is really good. So let's go on to the next person. I'm going to pick my favorite here, Sonali. So what's your thought process on what Krishna said and this whole career goal thing, the first one?
Hi. So I think in this world, the term which means staying relevant is very, very important, because every single day things are evolving so fast that we can't even keep track of it. Like, you learn something today and then tomorrow there's something brand new altogether, specifically from these platforms, like from Amazon or from Microsoft or from Google. These cloud platforms, they keep on evolving, and they have to keep on evolving to stay relevant in this cloud world. The same goes for us also. In the pace, the very, very fast pace that they are developing, we who are working on these platforms have to keep us updated right on the nib of time, every single minute, every single thing. You can't be an expert in every single thing, but at least you need to be knowing about what is coming up, like what is the new product for machine learning, what is the new product for IoT which is being developed, things like that. So in my current role, like I'm a solution architect at in my current role, and so that's basically my role. I would say we have not even like touched the tip of the iceberg in what we are doing with like, if I may say, I am working for Rogers, so we have not even touched the tip of the iceberg in the cloud world and in the architect. But very soon, hopefully after all this COVID time subside, Kada, you know, with COVID, how the projects are going on in companies. So hopefully after this time subsides, we are going to work on it, and that's exactly what I want to do. Like stay relevant and learn these, like and there is no, like, for example, I'm more focused on Amazon and I want to now learn into Microsoft. So that's the key role, and that's why I have joined the session.
Okay. So if I have to say in a single word, again, it's more or less aligned to the Jaspreet stuff, right? You wanted to stay relevant. That's a nice way of putting it. But a delta from Jaspreet is that by staying relevant, right? Not only you can stand out of the crowd, but you can actually implement things and innovate things in your organization. Being a lead architect, as an example. Did I say it right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So now, let me ask you this question, Sonali, right? I mean, there is AWS, Google, we talked about it, right? So, and also the technologies, we talked about it. But the fundamentals are the same. See, if you take a programming language, Sonali, right? Every programming language, let's take an example of, object-oriented programming language, right? Every programming language, what does it has? It has variables, it has structures, it has, conditional statements, it has objects and classes, polymorphism, inheritance, whatever, blah, 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 right? So every programming languages have this concept, but that concept doesn't change. But how you are going to actually implement them changes between program to programming language to programming language. It's the same stuff. Whether you are learning a cloud, or whether you are learning an AI, you are learning anything, right? Technology, blockchain, the concepts are the same, right? Maybe there is some delta here and there is there, which would differentiate from one to another, okay? But the foundational concepts are the same. So now the question to you, I mean, when you learn, yourself from Amazon to, Microsoft to, let's say, Google, do you really think it's really hard for you to adapt to the new way of doing it, or is it like easy for you? What's your opinion around that?
So it's not difficult. Like once you know, like the way you said the concepts, I would put it as algorithm. If you know the algorithm to a problem, you can write the code in Python, C++, COBOL, whatever you want. Mm-hmm. So that's the thing. All you need to know is syntaxes, and that's what I'm looking at specifically with respect to the different cloud platforms. So I would not say it's difficult, but for someone who is coming from a conventional world where there is where we are talking about like huge rack servers, like Intel 8086 or something like that, then moving to cloud, first there is something called virtual machines. So from there you go to virtual machines, and then you learn cloud, and it's like straightforward there.
But you know what? It's a interesting conversation. I want to continue a little bit for a couple of minutes. To me,
as long as others are not getting bored, I am.
No. This call is all about, because every question that I'm asking, I really want people to listen this, because when we wrap up this whole discussion, you will get into the thought process of what we are trying to achieve here, right? And learn from each other. So from my view, I mean, it's applicable. When I look at the test today, the poll, we have a audience, right? More or less from both the communities, right? Testing, automation, and operations community. So coming back, to your stuff, Sonali, I mean, there are differences, right? There are mindset differences. There are cultural differences. If you wanted to move from traditional way of doing IT to a cloud way of doing IT, and traditional way of developing applications to the cloud way of developing the applications, architecting it, designing it, deploying it, running it. I understand that, right? But still the foundations are the same. IP addresses are the same. Securities are the same. Ports are the same. Port securities are the same. Connectivity are the same. Protocols are the same. TCP, UDP, SCTP, transport, Ethernet, RFC 2544. I can go on and on, right? And application OSI layer is the same. TCP IP stack is the same. Which kind of evolved the internet world, in this last 1.5 decades. Whether you do it on premise and whether you do it on cloud, the foundations are still same, right? Is it not?
No.
So yeah, go ahead, Krishna. I won't.
Go ahead, Ajika. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead, Sonali.
Yeah, okay. So, Kader, you reminded me of something. So when we were trying to move into VPA, into the virtual networks and all that, my someone in my team who I report to, he asked me, like, why are you so much insisting to move into this virtualization world? Like, even now, the same thing that you said. Like it's the same thing. We are still going to have VMs and servers, and I just answered him in one way. Right now, when we have to launch, when there is an iPhone launch, we start preparing months ahead. And once for the high volume iPhone launch, Samsung launch, whatever it is. So, and we start preparing I give you all these graphs and charts and numbers and this and that. Once we move to cloud, you won't even know. And you won't even have to bother when iPhone launch is happening. Everything will happen seamlessly. So that's the key here.
So you're talking about advantages and disadvantages between traditional way of deployment to the cloud way of deployment. We all know moving to the cloud, it has got its advantages, right? And pros and cons in both the things, we all know. But my question was not related to advantage and disadvantage, right? My question was related from the point of view of a career and the learning. So from the career and learning point of view, both from the foundational view, right? Is it not the same? Or is it different?
No, I would not say it's different. Like if I'm coming from a traditional perspective, the minimum CPUs, like for example, I would have in a server is like 16 cores. And here we are talking about like 4 vCPUs machines, 2 vCPUs machines. So like you have to completely think about, earlier you were having a 3-tier cake and now you just have cupcakes to eat. So that's how I would like to put it. Like it's completely different coming from a traditional world to coming into this cloud world. You would still be having the same cake flavor, but earlier it was a huge cake and you might not eat the entire stuff of it, but now you're getting just cupcakes to eat, which you can digest, and if you need more, take more cupcakes.
Understood. Pay as you use and
this is Partha.
Yes, Partha, go ahead.
I'd like to just add one thing. See, what we are talking about can be, summed up like the what of things and the how of things, right? So the what is, okay, what needs to be done? We need to set up VMs. We need to make our CI/CD much faster. We should have the deliveries shorter and less complex.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the what. The how is what we are doing. Whether you want to use AWS, you have to learn certain hows. If you're going to use Azure, you're going to learn certain other hows. If you're using Google Cloud or IBM Cloud, you have to use certain other hows. You're using Huawei Cloud, you have to use something else. The how keeps changing, and the how is important, but far less important than the what. The architect thinks of the what of it. The person who's actually to do the work needs to know the how of it very well.
You know what, Partha, this is very well articulated. I'm very, very impressed the way that you articulated this what and how. So when I said foundation, I was referring to what, right? So the what remains, from my experience, 70% is more or less across the technology evolution. Foundation always remains the same, right? The what remains the same. And then there is a delta of 30%, which is where you have additional stuff. Let me give you an example to support my statement, right? So, the legacy stuff, right? It's applicable for both automation testing and DevOps, right? So like I was telling you, all these IP addresses, protocols, everything is the same. So then what is different in cloud? What is the delta? The delta, even in the home premises, you can still, I have in my company, I have 10, 15 servers. I can still manage these servers. I can still create VMs within my environment, and I can still install Kubernetes, and I can do everything on premise too, right? So before, probably I won't install OpenStack, or maybe not SDN controller for transport, or maybe not Kubernetes for container-based deployments. I just use the bare metal raw to deploy my applications. But today I have an option within my company also to do all these things. There are so many open sources that I can do. Now you can also do that with the cloud providers, which is like Microsoft, Amazon, and everyone, right? So you have options to do. So from my view, the career development point of view, what is like Kubernetes, all these VMs and everything is remains the same, irrespective of the old model or no new model or whatever it is, right? The difference becomes, the 30% delta becomes, is those that are provided by these providers, right? It's like Microsoft, they abstract so many details for you, right? It's got its pros and cons, right? If it abstracts so many details, sometimes you might end up in not sure. You will do something, but you really don't know what you are doing, right? Because you're hidden from many things on the you're abstracted and given an easy API, so you can do stuff and get things done. So it's the con, right? But the pro is, because it's abstracted, you don't have to really spend too much time and longer life cycle to do stuff, right? So that's the delta from my view, right? So that's what I mean by, foundation point of view, career point of view, for every individual, what's very important is to understand the what. And if you know the what, then how becomes easy. This is my view. Krishna, do you want to add anything to what I'm saying?
So I think to summarize this one, right? So I just wanted to, I like the points that has been shared before. The way I see today is, I call them, I just want my own term called as the engineering uniformity, okay? Mm-hmm. I tell you a use case. Today, we had a call with an engineer based in South India, Chennai, which I come from, right? Mm-hmm. So he is building on Azure a fantastic solution, right? He finished school 2 years ago. I mean, school 12th grade, and he's building application on Azure, okay? Mm-hmm. So that he has got communication challenges in native. He can speak well in native language, not in English, right? Mm-hmm. So what amazed me is he's able to understand the concepts of the cloud and build an amazing solution which is world class. Okay, so he doesn't have any major ambitions. All he has, he had two ideas. He told me is, one is anybody using the application should have the best experience possibly they can have. The second one is he wants to build for scale across the world. Okay, so not only in South India, he's thinking about across the world. I want to say, sir, I want to ask, makes this application become successful like Facebook, million people want to access, that's just, he thought that's a big number, right? So what this cloud has been given is engineering uniformity and scale. So you might talk about, hey, these IP address concepts are all same. As Partha mentioned, the how has become so good because we are building a platform for enabling developers, okay? And the scale that things you can do today is unimaginable, okay? So I keep saying to my customers, guys, you don't really look at cloud as a tool, but cloud is a survival, So basically, in this time of uncertainty, right, developers, engineers would play a major role in getting back things to normal. So they have a vision of reimagining the world. So today, Microsoft has got 61 data centers around the world. What's common across all the 61 data centers is Azure behaves exactly the same. So I want to do two examples. You might have heard of a company called Zoho, which is based in South India. There's a company called Freshworks, okay? These two companies, even Zoho goes to extent they call as a business or operating system of the business. They built in South India, they expose it to the entire world. They're competing against the stalwart like Microsoft and Salesforce, but the engineering culture they build is so amazing that big companies are struggling to match. So irrespective, and same thing, Freshworks start in South Chennai again. They are competing against Salesforce. They even have the extent of running a show user conference in US opposite to the Salesforce office, challenging Salesforce to come and compete with them. That's one thing. And there's a company called Covai. It's called BizTalk 360. That company has built all the products in Coimbatore. They're challenging big integration companies like Salesforce. All I'm saying is this cloud has brought one thing, which is engineering uniformity and scale. All you need to do is understand how the cloud works based. That's what Partha mentioned, right? So what you're going to build is very, very important. And how you're going to build is also the platform is going to play a major role. So in summary,
go ahead. Summarize it.
In summary, the way I see these components, intermingling of components and other things, I don't really care about what cloud. What matters is what you're building and how you're building it. And Azure as a Microsoft gives you a platform that can give you unlimited scale. So today, if you want to build an application that 100 million people want to use it, we have a solution with the lowest cost possible. So last one I want to just to talk about one thing is you guys all know Netflix, right? One lesson I learned from Netflix is the first innovation they did is how to send the CD in a package so that CD doesn't break. It's not the AWS, how they use AWS. All the design was how to send the CD without breakages. Okay. If they're not successful on that particular building, that particular case, there's nothing called Netflix. So in summary, innovation is very important. Engineering is very important. Innovation is very important. And companies which enable engineering and innovation are the ones who would be the forefront. I think the reason we are doing this course is to enable engineers and developers and architects. It doesn't matter where you come from, what you do. This gives an opportunity to expand the things. And today, you can build any application, anything you want, and then close it. Last one thing, Joe Rogan is a guy that has done a lot of podcasts, okay? Just Google Joe Rogan. He was predominantly pushing his podcast in YouTube and iTunes. Yesterday, Spotify paid $100 million.
You'll need to unlock your iPhone first.
So it's when I say Spotify open, my phone is open. He sold for $100 million his content, specifically allowed to be in Spotify. 100 million for podcast.
Wow.
And so at the end of the day, what matters is your content, your creativity, the things you create is more valuable than anything else underneath it. That's why if you see enterprises in Canada struggling because they're not able to comprehend how these innovations work. So for one of the things I see Microsoft and also other companies play a role is giving platform for smart people like, that are sitting in this class. So that's the whole thing. It's summary, but
understood. But I have a controversy question for you. Okay.
Yes.
So the question is, you are an architect, Krishna, right? So
yes.
There's a lot of people here, based on Jaspreet and Sonali's input and Partha's input, right? So there's a lot of people are here who wants to do a continuous learning. They want to understand the big picture. They want to understand different things that's happening in the market so they can be better in what they're doing, right?
Yes.
So that is a skill that's required for an architect. Anyways, you cannot be an architect if you don't have a breadth of knowledge, okay? So now, being an architect, do you believe abstracting and providing easy to use APIs is good enough for you to build a system that is scalable that could be used by millions and millions of people? Or do you believe as an architect, not only you should know those, the APIs that are provided above the abstract. When I say above the abstract means all those tools and techniques that Microsoft or any other cloud provider are providing, okay? So that's what I mean. So there's a lot of details are abstracted, right, for you. So as an architect, do you believe that, do you need to know below the abstract how it actually works? Or without knowing it, just sitting above the abstract, you can be a better architect and build and launch a product that's like world-class, scalable.
Before Krishna answers, this is Partha. I'd like to add something to this. You see, in my opinion, you must know enough of the underlying piping, let's put it that way. You have to have worked a little in the trenches, at least enough to understand what you're doing before you can become an architect. So it's always, skill. You have to build up skills. The cloud and today's development world is a huge, huge technology footprint. So without really understanding how a Docker image is built, I don't believe we should actually go ahead and deploy, just use Docker images off of the internet and use them, because you need to know if you need to interfere with a particular Docker image, you should know what you should need to do. So to that level, people have to understand it. Similarly, with any other the abstractions that Kader you was speaking about, and most of all these platforms provide you these abstractions.
Exactly.
You have to understand what are they abstracting. So if I use some tool to produce my HTML website, if I need to go and modify it, I need to know what I am building. If everything is abstracted and I don't know anything about the underlying structure of it, then it is very, very difficult to actually manage it and grow it and expand it or customize it in ways that I want it to behave.
That is why I mentioned this as a controversial question. Why I use that word controversial is, Krishna has been talking about some use cases here where the person building and stuff like that. So on that context point of view, for him, it might be applicable because he's building something where he does not need to know what is below that abstracted layer, right? Maybe there are use cases like that. That's why I kind of was directing this question to Krishna. You as an architect, do you believe just knowing above abstraction is good enough, or do you need to know what's underneath the abstraction for building a huge system, right? Not a small website, right? Maybe if you want to build a website, you may not need to know, right? So Krishna, your answers.
So I have a very simple question, counter question. Right? You drive a Tesla, okay? Mm-hmm. Tesla is one of the engineering innovation which has happened in the last 10 years. It's changed the way people communicate, move, and things like that, right? Do you know every single engineering aspect of Tesla, or you drive the car?
In that case, I'm a user, right? I don't care. But I'm asked, the question I'm directing is, you as a person who made a Tesla,
actually,
as an architect.
This.
Yeah, go ahead. Who's this? Identify the name, please.
Ajit Sadasivan.
Ajit, yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah. I was just listening. The conversation. For quite some time. Typically, when we say architect, what we actually map that to the technical side of the things. Say, for example, the code that you build or the databases or the services or APIs. But I have seen in the questionnaire you mentioned about what you want to be like. There is an architect role. There is, for example, if you look at in IT, companies have roles like enterprise architect, right? You have technical guys grow up, they become solution architects. Then you can become like, say there might be a security architect, but you need to look at the business side of it. Say, for example, business architect roles. And the guys who make those kind of decision, they look at the technical side, they look at the business side of it. That's where the whole picture comes in, right? So you need to look at all those, whether it's a new product development, to be a successful entrepreneur. I think that's where, for example, somebody, if you look at, I have a lot of my friends, ex-colleagues who have companies in, I am originally from South India, okay? Yeah, companies in different parts of the world. Yeah, so they grow up like from the technical stream, but slowly the later side of the career, they learn more on the business side of the things. Okay? Yeah, I think that's what.
Okay, understood. Okay, so let's move on. Go ahead, Krishna. You had something?
That's a very fair point, right? Understanding your business. So today, every company that you're dealing with today are all platforms. Okay, so when you use Uber, it's so much engineering has gone into it. Airbnb, like pretty much anything you use on a day-to-day basis, your WhatsApp, everything has got complex engineering piece. All I'm trying to say is, as Partha and also somebody spoke, right? Depending on the role you play, understanding your business need as well as building that is more than sufficient. Because if you take Microsoft, maybe there are 100 network engineers around the world. I don't know how many are. I'm just throwing some numbers. If you get Google, maybe there is 50 engineers doing it, right? Some of the roles are becoming more and more focused. And some of the roles today, I tell you, logging, monitoring, alerting, it's all done by AI ops. There is no engineer sitting at weather systems going down. So things are moving away. So there are certain things you need to, as Partha mentioned, you need to know where the source of the Docker is coming from if you want to be a good developer, because in the Docker world, there are a lot of malicious garbage Docker sitting in the public world, public cloud. You can't download that. So there are understanding of certain things are necessary. But at any point in time, as an architect, you also need to understand the business need and also what you're building. But in bottom line, see, again, I'm saying is companies are becoming super flat. Today, if I need to be an architect sitting remotely, I need to know business as well as technology, and also one deep area. So we have 3 skills, I always say, right?
Yeah, good. So that was one of my poll question, Krishna, right? So I just want to move on. I think, if I have to just summarize this, it depends upon the context, obviously, which is what every question's answer ends up in, right? So if you look at any of the conversations, right? So it depends on the context, and depending on that context, you need to know. If you are just building a website, probably you don't need to know behind the scene what happens, how the hardware is, resources are allocated by the virtual switch and hypervisor to become a VM. You don't need to know, right? If you're just building a website and if you want to deploying it. But if you're building a career grade application, then you need to know, because if something goes wrong, you need to really find out, which layer of the ladder the problem is, and you need to fix them so you can climb up and keep your customers happy, right? So it goes down to the context. Now I'm moving on into the next question, right? So next question topic is, there was a poll that I created which said, what stage of the product lifecycle you have work experience? Click all that apply. And I'm very happy to see here that it's kind of mutually distributed, right? So let me explain what is product lifecycle, so that for those who are not here, in sync and don't understands it. So there is a product lifecycle and there is a project lifecycle. There is a difference between a product lifecycle and a project lifecycle. A project, as you all know, it has a definite start and ends. But the product lifecycle is from the inception of the concept all the way to the retiring of the product, right? So life cycle of the product depends, like 10 years, 20 years. Some product has 3 years and some product has 200 years. Like, for example, a bridge could be for 200 years, 500 years, it depends, right? So that's the product life cycle. So that's number one. And when you think about product life cycle, there are many details into that, but I kind of abstracted it into 3 common stuff, right? For our discussion purpose. So the first one is the planning, product planning. So this is where you basically, you have a product idea. That's what I call it as a concept. So you found a problem in the market and you wanted to solve them. So you have a concept, right? And then you're going to do the feasibility. Well, there is a problem. There are so many problems in the world, but some of the problems you cannot really solve them, right? For various reasons without getting into details. So that's why you get into a feasibility phase and you try to understand, can I really solve this problem, right? And is there a business case, right? So for our discussion, purposefully, I'm going to leave the market, I'm going to leave the competition, and I'm going to leave the business, okay? And I'm assuming I'm doing all that, but I'm really focused here from the point of the people involved in the product life cycle, from the people point of view, okay? So if we do the feasibility from various aspects and we know, okay, it's good, and then I can move forward to the next step, and then I go into the design phase. This is a very high level, whatever that I need to really do based on the feasibility to design my whole stuff as an architect or whatever, right? And then I get into the development phase, which is, I call it as a product introduction. This is the second category, right? First one is the product planning. Second category is the product introduction, where you actually do the development, testing, and then you deploy it in the network, you launch it, and then the customers are starting to work on it, right? So that's a product introduction. So within product introduction, I kind of divided into 2 simple things for our discussion: development plus testing, and then launch. Now the product is launched, right? The story doesn't end there. Then you have to get into a post-launch where you have to monitor them, if there is a problem, you need to support them, you need to do the customer care, you need to help customer care to do things. And even the data that you collect, you can do AI, and then you can help the marketing team to create focused marketing stuff so they can make more money out of your product. A lot of things that you can do in post-launch. So I just want to kind of explain this so that you understand. So what is product lifecycle, and it got 3 phases: product planning, which is all about idea and design, all the way to the design, introduction, development, testing, and launching. then post-launch, right? Which is going to make your product continue to live in the market, fix the problems, and feeds back into this vicious circle again to, you know, do the concept feasibility and add new features which can bring in more money. So it's like a vicious circle. And this vicious circle goes on and on and on as long as the product is there in the market. So now you understand what is the product life cycle. So the first question I wanted to open on this floor is, where is testing involved in this whole product life cycle? I'm not talking about product testing. Don't keep your head too narrow towards product testing. In a general terms, where is testing involved in this whole product life cycle, which is going to be there for 100 years, 20 years, 10 years, depending upon the product? And where is the operations knowledge, anything to do with operations, anything to do with testing lives inside this life cycle? Where does it live? That's the question. So I'm going to start with someone on the testing side. So here, I know Navena, you are an expert of testing, or identify someone who are experts in testing, and just answer to my question: where does testing, you know, come in this whole different life cycle? And what's your thought process?
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Navina. Yeah, so you have first of all, I would like to thank, you have defined very well for the product, life cycle, which is interesting. So basically I think in my perspective, it will come under the product, product introduction development. So during the development itself, testing, in the previous world, we used to have like a separate testing team at all, and then they will try to, after the development is finished, usually in the waterfall methodology, once we have the requirements, then gather planning, and then designing, then development, then only testing will come into the picture, right? But in the current agile methodology, so testing has to be in each and every phase. We have to be involved, so that in each and every phase testing is a mandatory. But during the development itself, because now we are not calling, quality engineers should be involved in each and every phase, after the development is done, immediately unit testing has to be finished. During the unit testing level itself, and once the user stories are ready, then probably we will be having the testing phase, right? So once the testing is finished, because testing, all it brings to the quality of the product. I believe mainly on the, whenever any product has been released, the quality is a must. Of course, with any software will have, it's hard to say that, we have a free bugs to the software, but without testing, right, in depth, right? So sometimes in the agile world, we might, not only automation, I would say more, we can find more bugs during the exploratory testing. Sometimes the testers, the way they think, probably I would say, I'm not sure developers are here, but so developers may not cover during the unit level of testing, right? So I would say that during the development and testing, currently using the TDD or whatever the frameworks we have, so then and there itself we can test it and release the product, and it should be maybe quality product, what I would say. And end of the day, customers should be happy whatever we release out the product.
Okay.
Yeah, I would
So,
like to add, Kader, just read here. So I'm
yeah.
from the testing side, basically. So my thinking is, in this world, testing is like a continuous process. It is not like after building a product we'll start. No, right from the writing the basically as she said, in the agile world. So right from starting the requirement phase, the testing should be the part of it. So now I'm seeing, like, during the product development, like the way when the product owners are writing the stories, and at the same time, if as a QA, I'm making an emphasis on reading the stories and making it a point that if there is any betterment which can be done to the acceptance criteria, or based upon my knowledge, if I can suggest that this looks irrelevant or relevant for that particular product to be a good product, basically. So testing is like a continuous process. It's not after building the product we should be starting or working on it.
I can chime in as well, Kadir. This is Sandeep here, and
Yes,
I agree with Jaspreet and Navina as well. Me and Navina, we work for the same company, by the way. So I think there's a little bit difference. I see what we call testing and quality. I try to draw a fine line between them. Testing is more about, trying to test the product once it is ready. There could be different phases, unit testing and so on. Quality is what I think Navina tried to mention. That is, you try to get involved from the very front. And I agree with Jaspreet. It's more like a journey, End of the day, you cannot do exhaustive testing, or nobody can guarantee this is 100% bug free. It's a matter of just raising the confidence of the stakeholders so much that you can actually go live with it. And you're hoping that all the critical scenarios, they are actually not broken. You will always find a few corner cases here or there coming back, but they should not be, impacting the business drastically. It's all about, making sure that the quality is at par so we can go live, but nobody going to guarantee it's, 100% bug free. You have done testing or quality engineering, and now you will no longer need to touch that code, because we are always changing that code anyways, with all those changes or whatever the market demand is. My 2 cents, yeah.
So let me just work on the thought process. If you look at our previous question about the career growth, you see how strongly Krishna mentioned. I mean, yes, there are organizations which is recruiting testers, which is recruiting DevOps experts, I don't know, NOC experts or whatever, right? Developers or whatever. But the success becomes if you are able to do what you are good at the best, and also able to do other things, because there's not many options are there. If you wanted to really stand out of the crowd, you might be flexible enough and adaptive enough to do a lot of different things, right? So that was more or less the conclusion of our first poll question. And I wanted to bring that into the context of this poll, this one, right? Whatever you are saying, right? All the three you answered about product introduction and development, with where the testing also comes in, right? Where the developers does testing and the testers does testing, and then certifies it and gives it to the production team for launching, right? Maybe you have a test environment where you need DevOps skills, whatever, to deploy it and test it and give it to the launch. All of your focus were only on, what I'm noticing was only on one line item, which was product introduction development, right? But I just wanted to leave that thought there. Okay, probably we may not be able to go to the other poll questions today because we are coming to an end, but I wanted to leave that thought there for now from the testing point of view. And then I wanted to move to operations, and I want some of the operations experts to talk about and answer the same way. Where do you believe the operations people will get involved in this product lifecycle? Where do they get involved in this throughout the product lifecycle? Partha, Sonali, or anyone else?
Can you elaborate more a little bit when you say operations people? Are you looking for sort of DevOps skill set?
Well, anyone who is responsible for making sure that the product is running and providing the wonderful customer experience which is expected, right? So there's people who are responsible. So that means, to me, operations is people who are responsible to operate the product, right? So mostly they come inside. I don't want to say anything. So basically, it could be a DevOps, it could be a NOC, if you know what is NOC, network operation centers, right? Which they operate, make sure, and then service operation centers. You have deployed some SaaS services. You make sure so many users are coming in, going. SOC service centers. Then you can talk about field experts who are also fall under operations, who go and fix on the fields. So I don't want to say anything, right? It's something that we wanted to learn from you. Based on what you interpret, share it with us.
I can just share it for 30 seconds. Sandeep here again. In my area or in my company, we call it as a production health check. Okay. Under them, they have all the teams, whatever names you mentioned, they are making sure that all the services are running at par and everything is running, and they're trying to monitor that everything, whatever the products we have launched in production, they're running at par. And if something is failing, they right away, they have all these different team members or there's a different, you can say, teams which are looking into different areas. Some of them looking into networks, servers, applications, so on. And it's one single bubble which we call as a production health check, which is looking into everything is running smoothly and as expected.
Any other inputs, please?
This is Partha.
Yeah.
So in today's world of software development, you have got what is called the 12-factor way of developing, and especially with microservices and cloud. So I'm not directly in operations. I'm more in DevOps. I don't operate or have responsibility for the production servers. But typically, operations would get involved as soon as you have a minimal viable product. So if when the product is conceptualized, again, to answer, I mean, to just as an aside, when do you start testing? The first test is when the people are discussing the product as a concept. There itself, your testing goes on. You're testing ideas whether this is a viable product, this is something that will be received in public. So that test goes on even at that time. Even before a single line of code is written, the concept itself has to be tested. So testing goes on all the time. Operations will get involved in the sense that what Kadir said about operations. Operations would get involved as soon as there is a minimal viable product. So in the sense that when you have your first cut of a product that can be demonstrated, at that time operations has to get involved. It does get involved in most of today's fast development corporations. This is what happens. They get involved at that time because they have to sort of understand what is the product, how many services does this product depend upon, what sort of backend does this depend upon, and what sort of what is the load capacity that the people are thinking of, so that they have to start designing and looking at this, and even providing inputs into the design team as to what they have to take care of, even while starting to write the code or writing the code itself, as to the scalability and reliability issues that will turn up in production, depending on what your final clientele is going to look like who are going to use this application. So
I want to pick one point that you mentioned. Guys, it's 11:35. I plan to finish this at 11:45. 10 more minutes, right? We may not be able to go to the next poll questions. Maybe after 3 or 4 weeks, we'll continue this discussion, right? One more session we'll have, and then we'll continue this discussion, because end of the 4 poll questions, there's a lot of messages to learn. We as a team, which is going to help us. So Partha, you said, I am a DevOps, but I am not an operation guy. I mean, that's, can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, well, today's
why
DevOps,
you believe you are a DevOps, but not an operations guy?
I don't look into production level problems. There are enough problems on the DevOps, in the developments and testing side of things that are completely operations dependent, or in the sense that they completely fall into the realm of operations rather than of development or testing. Okay, because today's again, we come back to how the world works today in terms of IT development and IT infrastructure, playing a huge role in how an application is actually built and delivered. So there will be different components and of an application. There will be different services of an application, and they all are intercommunicating with each other. There may be multiple gateways through which there may be application gateways, there may be API gateways, there may be load balancers, there may be a web gateway, and so on. And there may be partner services that you rely upon, an application relies upon. A banking service would definitely rely upon things like credit check service. An insurance company would definitely rely upon credit, not only credit rating, but also, actuaries will actually give you the risk rating of a particular deal. So you have partner interactions also. So what during the application development and testing, all these have to be tested, and many of these are involve operations, because the depth of knowledge required to actually go in and check an API gateway as to seeing exactly where the call is failing, trace the call using something like Splunk or some such tool, and actually taking the
yeah, but I still don't, but I'm going to help you here, but I still don't understand. Did not get an answer. Why you believe DevOps is not operations?
No, I don't. What I meant.
At least you meant. Yeah, you meant.
Can I interject on this one? Maybe Partha, you can correct me, right? So the functions are in most enterprises would keep them separately because the problem space is very different. Production. This is what I've seen in enterprises and startup Microsoft. The problem spaces on a production system is massively different. Skill sets are different. The type of activity is different. On engineering side, with as Partha will be related to, it's got different set of challenges, different set of problems to deal with. So companies used to do that before, but nowadays they're starting to split because, for example, in the when you look at the production systems, there's also security and compliance. And like most of the time, developers are not supposed to touch the production system because the security access control codes also split across. So there's a lot of things which I think if Partha is building a startup, right? Maybe we might do at beginning stages, but I started to see they starting to split them right in the middle, where the production operation is very separate than the. Partha can correct me if I'm wrong. That's what I've seen. There's a very clear demarcation these days.
Absolutely, yeah, so you're right. The security is one major aspect. The other major aspect is,
no, I'm going to challenge you guys on security. I'm going to challenge. Okay, the challenge is, if the developer does not develop the product assuming the security loopholes that this product can bring in, one aspect of it. And then the second aspect of it is, if he is not testing the securities applications that you are going to deploy on top of the product, what developers has done it. If he's not done that testing or integration and understood the performance differences of using without security and with security, well, if you, as an operation guy, takes the product and do all these security stuff on top of it, it could drastically reduce the customer experience because of implementing the security. Okay.
No, Kader. So let me answer the question very shortly. The security standards are quite different for different industries. So, see, if you take the federal government of the US, you got FIPS, you have to adhere to FIPS standards, Federal Information Processing Standards. If you're doing something for a medical related company, then you have to adhere to HIPAA standards. If you're working with, we are working with anything, you've got the European standards now to security standards to deal with.
So what does it have? Give me an example. What is this one security standard? I'll help you here. Let's take a HIPAA or something, right? And basically it says the particular product user data, whatever should be encrypted. I don't know, let's say 356 encryption algorithm, RSA 256, whatever. This should be, your product should be complying to this because of the security standard. This is one example. Is it not, Partha? You agree?
Yeah.
Okay, now I'll come back to my question. So if I don't use the security in my product to do the encryption and decryption as a developer, as in the product introduction phase, and all these things will be done by the operation team, there will be a degradation in the product performance, is it not?
No, I think, Kadri, I think you're mixing a lot of concepts. I'll give you a very simple example.
Okay.
Production keys, for example, Microsoft will not see the production keys at all.
Yeah, keys they don't see, but I'm talking about only the algorithms,
no, even
not keys.
A lot of the testing with the developer does is focused on that particular one piece. When the product gets deployed into production, there are different even compliance activities come into play. For example, today, all our Microsoft support employees are based in Canada to troubleshoot any customer data in Canada. Okay, the engineering product will be sitting in China or India or Bulgaria to build the product. At that scenario, no, the developers on there will not even know what's happening in the production, right? There are a lot of nuances on this. It's not just developer not getting the production ones. The activities of, there's a thing called separation of concerns in security, right? You have to have a very clear demarcation of separation of concerns. If not, you will have issues. For example, today, the developer is not, even some of the developers are not supposed to even look at the logs in production to the extent. It's seen as
I mean, if you see hyper standards on how you deal with customer related problems,
Yes.
you have to have a secure house. You have to have everything encrypted. Even the employee even to enter into that area physically or through network has to have special permissions, special
Understood.
security software and all that. It's quite different for the operations in production are quite different from operations in development testing.
Understood. I totally agree. So see, from the point of view of security, customer data, all those things, I agree. Point of view of keys that you use, private and public keys, for the test you have a different set and production you have a different set. All those things I agree, Partha and Krishna. Okay. There's no confusions there.
There are other things, Kader. If you have two data centers and you're transferring, I mean, you're having one data center as a backup to the other. How do you how do you interconnect the data centers? What sort of data center bridging protocols are you going to use? Are you going to use fiber optic over Ethernet, FOE? How do you are you going to extend the net storage fabric, or are you going to have a duplicated storage fabric? These are things that are the operations. Production operations are actually concerned with. The DevOps operations team will not be concerned with these things because they are not involved in it at all in any. What the DevOps will be more involved with is how to set up all the different types of test systems they require. I may need to test my application against Oracle database, against Microsoft SQL database, against MySQL, against DB2. So I need to set up 3 or 4 systems. I may have cross-functional, data commits. So they may be. I actually am speaking of an actual application where we have gas stations which have each different gas station has a different SQL. I mean, different database. One has Oracle, one has Microsoft SQL. Somebody has something else, but they all come back to the central distribution point where the gas is distributed to each of these stations. So the gas station has the central point has to collect all this data and make one single, multiple commits to multiple different databases and have an XA transaction. So this is again not something that.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do, just for our, because we are coming into our time, right? So we are going to probably talk a little bit more about DevOps, right? In our one of our next Ask Me Anything session, we will dig little bit deep dive into. So just from the point of view of my thought process here is that, which I want to leave it as an open question. See, for me, DevOps, right? Development and operations. So development is development piece plus testing piece. Okay. Ops is an operation piece. So for me, when I talk about dev piece, normally it starts from the source code management to the build management to the test management. Okay. And then ops piece, when you talk about it, to me, it starts from the infrastructure management to the configuration management to the deployment management and continuous monitoring and continuous deployment, right? Continuous monitoring and post-launch activity. So that's an ops. So bringing these two things to in a form of a pipeline to ensure things can happen in a closed loop. When I use the word closed loop, it basically is where different companies and enterprises are moving forward, right? How can I automate as much as possible from the start to the end? So I can do self-heal, I can do self-optimization, I can do recovery, self-maintenance, or whatever, self-XXX. Okay, so this is, I want to leave the thought here without further discussing, and then we want, this is a separate topic. I want to really brainstorm with you guys and learn together as a team. Now, coming back from the conclusion point of view of the second point here, right? We heard from testing, we heard from operation. Again, I want to leave the thought here. See, for me, I agreed with Partha, what he mentioned. In a product life cycle, testing, if I talk about testing, if you see most of the testers today talked about explain their answers inside the product introduction development, right? Which also include the product testing. But for me, because I have been involved, in various activities throughout the life cycle, maybe because of an exposure. For me, my experience has been, I'm just sharing from my view, right? My experience has been testing is, like Partha mentioned, throughout the product life cycle. You have a concept, you need to test them. But the testing is not a product testing, right? You need to test, okay, I have a concept, is it really worth pursuing this concept? I go to the field and I'll ask, I share with different people, if I have this some solution, will you buy from me? Right? It's a testing to me, right? So likewise, I don't want to explain every phase, but the testing is involved throughout the product life cycle. But the context of how you look at from your eyes is different. If you are a product tester, you would look at only from the product introduction point of view. But if you are concept in the concept phase, the testing you will look at from the different eyes, right? So testing is throughout. When it comes to operations and DevOps, I wanted to leave the topic open for now, okay? Because it's a big topic to discuss. In our next Ask Me Anything, we will discuss. From my view, I wanted to further challenge and debate among ourselves and learn how this operation and DevOps, from the DevOps point of view, operations, how are the connections between, where are the connections between these two? And where are the disconnects between these two? Is the disconnect healthy for the future to come, or unhealthy pros and cons between this disconnect and connect, right? This is something that we need to really brainstorm in our next Ask Me Anything. So just to summarize, 2 polls we went through today, and the first poll is, from my view, pretty straightforward. I agree from my view, right? And I wanted you also to think about, if you disagree, we have to bring it up and talk. I agree to Krishna's statement when, I don't know, infinitive present. This is what I have seen. In every company, you have a role to play and you have to be expert in that role. But if you wanted to really stand out of the crowd, you have to at least know what different roles, what they do in different roles. And even you have to adapt yourself to do it in different roles. That's going to really help you to grow. Because I have seen in my career, the people like that really, climb up in the ladder. If you are a specialist, only specialist, they will put you into that. And if there is a problem, they'll give you solve it and give it to me, right? And in my experience, I have seen the companies succeeding when you have lots of generalists and the specialist being a generalist. And I see a lot of people individually have succeeded in that. I completely agree to Krishna, what he mentioned on that. And the second point, I wanted you to think about a little bit from the conclusion point of view. Change your mindset a little bit. Okay, I have always been thinking as a tester during the product, right? So if I am a tester, if I am asked to test during the product planning, right? What is the mindset that I need to have? Point 1. And point 2, for being a product tester, what kind of an involvement that I need to do during the concept phase? These are 2 different things. Remember, these are not one and all the same, right? If you want to do a product testing and if you are involved in the concept phase, what you need to know or do in the concept phase to deliver as a good product to the end customer, right? Or the production environment, however you see it. That's one thought process, right? The other thought process is not as a product testers, but you are a tester in the product planning Scrum team, right? And what you should be doing as a tester. These are 2 different thought processes I wanted you to think about. So with that, I wanted to stop here. Any final closing note from the audience and Krishna, so we can close this call today?
I have more than note. I want to have one ask. So we found excellent content from today participants. This is what I want to work with Ekadir to maybe these, Sandeep and, and then Partha, I think we should do one session on their things, maybe, a session of what they know, because Partha, I didn't know that he has got such a deep knowledge in DevOps. Maybe we have one session on each one of them to talk about their products and things, like a training session, right? I learned a lot today. Something to think about.
So the thought process of ask anything is, my thought process was, when we do this 4 poll question, when we have the people to talk, right, we start to learn about their qualities, their expertise. When Partha was talking, I was able to connect to, I might be expertise in one area, I might not be expertise in other area, right? It's collective team is going to help us. But the goal is, this Ask Me Anything, we should probably do once in 4 weeks, okay? And learn more from the team. And when we go through this process, end of this process, we will know additional things that we can learn, not only from you, Krishna, right? We are bored of you. I'm just joking. Maybe from Partha, maybe from Sonali, maybe from Sandeep, maybe from Navena, right? So that's the end goal of this, right? So my thought process is, we may not be able to achieve this in next 3 months, because we are going to just ask for anything once in 3 or 4 weeks, right? Once in 3 weeks, let's keep, right? And then let's continue this discussion, and maybe after 3, ask me for anything. Then we can start planning around other stuff.
No, that's a good content. I learned a lot. Thank you very much for everyone to share the knowledge, to share the deep understanding. I learned a bit of bits and pieces on security, now automation. And Sandeep, I really like the way he articulated how the testing phase works. And obviously Sonali also shared a lot of good input, and also a few other good people have shared a lot of knowledge. Thanks to you all. Now my work is, I need to make my content more interesting from starting next week. So thanks for the motivation now.
Sonali, Sandeep, anyone else? Closing statement from
just one, Sandeep here. There is a concept going on, Kader and everyone, and Krishna, workforce of the future. It's a concept, even if you Google it out, many speakers, everything. I think people are talking about what the industry gonna need, and especially with the, the times that we are in now, I think that concept will gonna be very interesting. And maybe you can put that, Kader, in your backlog in agile terms. Maybe after we can touch back in 2 or 3 months, workforce of the future, and what will be the expectations from the future workforce.
You actually gave me a good marketing tips here. So Testoper is all about enabling creative talent, and then I can add next to that creative talent to become the workforce for future. You see,
absolutely. There you go.
It's all connected, right?
Absolutely.
Good one. Any other closing note from anyone else? What do you? I know that obviously this is a big topic. We need to continue this like a podcast, right? Maybe the programs team, you need to kind of create another place where we can say Ask for Anything podcast, right? And you can basically name Sandeep's idea, Workforce for Future podcast, and then put today's discussion in there. Maybe every other podcast we'll put that into the YouTube. This would be a good starting place for us. Any other closing note, please?
Yeah, Kader, this is Kirot. Maybe it is too late, but I can conclude because I am from right now in Sweden, and I worked almost 12 years with Kader, and I'm continuously studying all those sessions from you guys. It's a very nice session from others and Krishna, and also I'm following all those notes. I'm making notes and learning. And I started career in testing, but right now I'm in support. You can say it's an operation, part of operation, but this operation is for R&D, because right now I'm working in Ericsson, and we are providing the infrastructure as a service to our R&D people, and the R&D belongs to all over the places in the world. So they are using the lab infrastructure. And not all of those lab components are in cloud, but partially we have many components in cloud, like the DSCP solution or the traffic testing. So initially I was asking, I need this machine for this, my traffic testing. Somebody was providing, but I had no idea like what they are doing in the cloud environment. But right now I'm in also learning the OpenStack because Ericsson is a lot of things doing on OpenStack, and they will slowly move to Azure because of the Open RAN solution. So that's why I'm learning the cloud, and I have good idea right now on OpenStack because I'm doing a lot of practice on OpenStack, and it is good to know the concept and the training from you guys. So I will continue my training, but in the next session I will share my experience in operation point of view. What are the area, the cloud, if I have some knowledge, then how can I explore my knowledge and expertise and I can sustain in the industry for a longer time.
This is really awesome. So Krishna, Kirodh, you should actually bring more people from Sweden to attend this session.
Yeah, I have few friends, they wanted to join, so I'll request Saad to add them.
That's dedication, Kishore. Thank you. I think a lot of people are contributing a lot of knowledge. Really happy to hear those things. Yeah, definitely. If you have a user fueled session, I see. I didn't know about this world. What a workforce which was shared by Sandeep. It's fantastic. I'm just quickly reviewing that. So yeah, a lot of knowledge, guys. I think it's already 11:58.
Yeah, let's close this call. Yeah, let's close this call. Great session. Thank you. And this is a pilot session. I wanted you to understand. We will do this once in 3 weeks, but if it really picks up, then what we can do is we can create some podcast kind of stuff where we will have a separate, ask me for anything session outside of this to continue this real world experience sharing kind of a thing, right? We'll do that. Probably this is a good start. Thanks for all your contribution. You have a great day, and today the weather is good. In spite of that, 25 people attending is not a small thing, and we need to somehow work together as a team. Please think that this Testopper is yours, right? Let's make this 25 to 125 and 175 as things evolve. Okay, you guys have a great evening, and thanks for this engaging conversation today. And I'll talk to you all soon, and we will get ourselves geared for our next session, which Krishna is going to present and Khader is not going to bore anymore. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Great day, guys.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks.
Bye.